Sigurd's sword. Sigurd immediately assented, on the condition, however, that the curse should be assumed by Regin, who, also, in order to fitly equip the young man for the coming fight, should forge him a sword which no blow could break. Twice Regin fashioned a marvelous weapon, but twice Sigurd broke it to pieces on the anvil. Then Sigurd bethought him of the broken fragments of Sigmund's weapon, which were treasured by his mother, and, going to Theodorus, he begged for these from her, and either he or Regin forged from them a blade so strong that it divided the great anvil in two without being dinted, and whose temper was such that it neatly severed some wool floating gently upon the stream. Sigurd now went upon a farewell visit to Gripir, who, knowing the future, foretold every event in his coming career. After which, he took leave of his mother, and accompanied by Regin, set sail for the land of his fathers, vowing to slay the dragon when he had fulfilled his first duty, which was to avenge the death of Sigmund. First will thou, prince, avenge thy father, and for the wrongs of a Glimmy will retaliate. Thou will the cruel, the sons of Hunding, boldly lay low, thou will have the victory. Lay of Sigmund, Fafnir's Side, Thorpe's translation. On his way to the land of the Volsungs, a most marvelous sight was seen, for there came a man walking on the water. Sigurd straightway took him on board of his dragon ship, and the stranger, who gave his name as Feng or Fjolnir, promised favorable winds. Also, he taught Sigurd how to distinguish auspicious omens. In reality, the old man was Odin, or Hnikar, the wave-stiller, but Sigurd did not suspect his identity. The fight with the dragon. Sigurd was entirely successful in his descent upon Ligny, whom he slew, together with many of his followers. He then departed from his reconquered kingdom, and returned with Regin to slay Fafnir. Together they rode through the mountains, which ever rose higher and higher before them, until they came to a great tract of desert, which Regin said was the haunt of Fafnir. Sigurd now rode on alone, until he met a one-eyed stranger, who bade him dig trenches in the middle of the track, along which the dragon daily dragged his slimy length to the river to quench his thirst, and to lie in wait in one of these until the monster passed over him, at which point he could thrust his sword straight into its heart. Sigurd gratefully followed this counsel, and was rewarded with complete success, for as the monster's loathsome folds rolled overhead, he thrust his sword upward to its left breast, and as he sprang out of the trench, the dragon lay gasping in the throes of death. Then all sank into silence, and the son of Sigmund stood on the torn and furrowed desert by the pool of Fafnir's blood. And the serpent lay before him, dead chilly, dull and grey, and o'er the glittering hearth fair shone the sun and the day. And a light wind followed the sun, and breathed o'er the fateful place, as fresh as it furrows the sea-plain, or bows the acre's face. Regin had prudently remained at a distance until all danger was past, but seeing that his foe was slain, he now came up. He was fearful lest the young hero should claim a reward, so he began to accuse him of having murdered his kin. But with feigned magnanimity, he declared that instead of requiring life for life, in accordance with the custom of the North, he would consider it sufficient atonement if Sigurd would cut the monster's heart and roast it for him upon a spit. Then Regin spake to Sigurd, of the slaying wilt thou be free, then gather thou fire together, and roast the heart for me, that I might eat it and live, and be thy master and more. For therein was might and wisdom, and the grudged and hoarded lore, or else depart on thy ways, afraid from the glittering hearth. Sigurd was aware that a true warrior never refused satisfaction of some kind to the kindred of the slain, so he agreed to the seemingly small proposal, and immediately prepared to act as cook, while Regin dozed until the meat was ready. After an interval, Sigurd touched the roast to ascertain whether it were tender, but, burning his fingers severely, he instinctually thrust them into his mouth to allay the smart. No sooner had Fafnir's blood thus touched his lips than he discovered to his utter surprise that he could understand the songs of the birds, many of which were already gathering round the carrion. Listening attentively, he found that they were telling how Regan meditated mischief against him, and how he ought to slay the old man and take the gold, which was his by right of conquest, after which he ought to partake of the heart and blood of the dragon. As this coincided with his own wishes, he slew the evil old man with a thrust of his sword, and proceeded to eat and drink as the birds had suggested, reserving a small portion of Fafnir's heart for future consumption. He then wandered off in search of the mighty hoard, and, after donning the helmet of dread, the hauberk of gold, and the ring on Varanot, and loading Greyfell with as much gold as he could carry, he sprang to the saddle and sat listening eagerly to the birds' songs to know what his future course should be. So those were Sigurd's Sword and the Fight with the Dragon, sections 21 and 22 of chapter 26 of Myths of the Norsemen by Helene A Guerber, the Sigurd Saga. I will be working my way through this book section by section, and if there are any other public domain books that you would like for me to read, please leave a comment below. Did you enjoy this video? Then subscribe for more, and be sure to check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. Thank you for listening, and have a lovely evening.